Good afternoon. What is it? Tuesday
Yes.
afternoon.
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. DFS Army Live Lock Show. MLB DFS. One-stop shopping, content tools, coaching, all that good stuff. You've got Chompadong. You've got Darth Pasta. And we were running through some numbers for you guys. I mean, I don't know. Should we call that show prep?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it was actually show prep. We were looking through some numbers for you guys, and it was really kind of funny. Going through team stats and who, the top 5 offenses are, who's got the OPS, who's got the whatever. And why don't you tell them what we discovered in the LA Angels?
The LA Angels, curiously enough, have hit the third most home runs in all of baseball. They've got 114 through 78 games, basically half the season. And yet they have, refresh this, they have the second worst team batting average. The Rockies are hitting better than the Los Angeles Angels. Third most home runs, second worst batting average.
The Rockies are hitting 228 as a team, and the Angels are hitting 226.
Yep.
Yet the Angels have the third most home runs in the league, making them a fantasy bonanza if you catch them on the right night. That is amazing. And the other one you pointed out was Seattle. Seattle was something else.
Yep, they've got 105 home runs. They've only scored 28 fewer runs than the Angels, and they've got 9 fewer home runs. But again, that's all Cal Raleigh. So you could stack the Angels kind of every night and probably be profitable over a long enough stretch. But you're probably not with Seattle, just because so much of the production is surrounded by or centered around that one guy.
That's old school research. Without all the fancy tools, without all the fancy stuff, that's what we used to have to do in this industry to write our articles. And before we put out a lot of videos and stuff, this was the stuff we did every morning. You got up, you checked the weather, you got up, you checked MLB.com, you checked this, you checked that, and you kind of figure out who's doing what, whose numbers change. You start seeing little things like that. It helps you start formulating your cheat sheets. And then as the DFS industry evolves and we start going, it'd be pretty cool to import that tool and put it on the site. So we do. And that'd be pretty cool to import that tool and put it on the site. And the next thing you know, you start becoming one-stop shopping where it's like, we don't need to look anywhere else. And because of everything that all points out, leverage, stacks, chalkboard, all the stuff that everything gets pointed out to now, we forget about the old school stuff, which is just go back to the old-fashioned MLB.com or Fangraphs or whatever and just be like, let's do some old school research. So you and I were just having some fun for a few minutes before we hit the go live button. And I mean, to me, that felt like home, man. It felt good. It felt good.
Well, we're both old boomer Gen X, going to the library and actually going to the card catalog and doing the research and reading the books. Dewey Decimal System.
Dewey Decimal System.
Anybody under 35 isn't going to have a clue what that is.
That microfiche. Did you ever go searching through the old microfiche machines? Oh, did it ever smell like old librarian cardigan lady? Oh my gosh. Mothballs and day old coffee. I mean, it's what it was, man. Or you go into college, you go back into the stacks, back into the back of the library and stuff where books that never get looked at or, are housed because you need them for some obscure paper.
That musty paper smell.
Yeah, it's just brutal. Cobwebs and, 100-year-old paper.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Oh, man. Is that Grapes of Wrath?
No.
Or is that
Tale of Two Cities? Tale of Two Cities. Mm-hmm.
It's gonna. And Steinbeck or Dickens?
No, Dickens.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I knew I'd get there eventually. We'll get to the baseball stuff here in a minute, but I had probably the best English teacher ever my freshman year. They, did the whole 5-paragraph papers and read some books and do papers on them and such. But then at the final, he said, you're going to get this final. It's going to be, I think it was our fall midterm, and then it was our winter or our first semester final, and then it was our end of year final. And it was a sheet it was probably 8 or 10 pages, front and back, old-fashioned typewriter, Courier font, whatever.
Yep.
And it was titles and authors and titles and all, and so and it was poetry, and it was broken down into all the different time periods, Renaissance, all this stuff with all of the writing, and it was Edgar Allan Poe and like 10 of his poems and whatever, blah blah. Okay. And they said, basically that was your final. It was going to be true, false. It was going to be fill in the blank. It was going to be whatever, but it was literally all about who wrote what. And so you're doing everything from, Bradbury and Fahrenheit 451 to Dickens to Hemingway to Poe to whatever. I'm telling you what, my sophomore and my junior year, I was a literary genius because of it. It's like I could have gone on property and I could have kicked Ken's ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like I own this shit. But nowadays, 30 years later, you saw me getting confused again. I've already forgotten it all. I was like,
that's all right.
So it was cool. It really filled in well for trivia nights. It was the coolest final. Any English teacher in the world, I swear, if you did that to your kids as a final or something like that, and told them months in advance that this is going to be your final, and give them plenty of time to study and memorize and flashcard and all that. No tests in class though on it because you're doing other stuff, reading, writing papers, a little bit of public speaking, but then boom, that was your final. They knew what was coming. They knew when it was coming, and I mean, it's up to you how well you did in that class. It was neat. It was neat. I'll never forget it, obviously. Mm-hmm. But that has nothing to do with baseball. So let's dive in and let's talk a little bit of baseball. Got some
Excellent.
of the old dogs in the house. We got I see Don and Chuck, and of course tattoos hanging in there. So in school suspensions, where he spent most of his, he's an Oregon Trail god. You know what? May you and yours have dysentery for life.
I gotta tell you, I teach social studies to fifth graders, and that's about the furthest that we get. And so, but it's about the second or third to the last week of school, I introduced the OG Oregon Trail, the old black and white thing, and they cannot get enough of it.
No, it's awesome.
The funniest thing to see these 11-year-old kids just going bananas for this black and white 8-pixel game.
Ours was green and black. That's how old our monitors were. Little green print. If anybody in that comment section played Oregon Trail, do it, say it, because man, we all the OGs know that game. That's like one of the first video games most of us ever played.
And that just goes to show simple is sometimes better, right? Keep it simple.
I agree. I would still play Asteroids, the old holographic Asteroids. I would play Pac-Man. Those are some of the simplest freaking things you could ever find. And I would go, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter on these games, and that was great. It was old school vintage stuff.
Yep.
But we are looking at the weather station here, everybody. We don't really see much today. We see some stuff on the early slate, but this is nothing to me. I just wanted to point out again, it's hotter than Hades everywhere around the country. Wind blowing in, wind blowing out. Not much of a factor for anybody. No rain chances, so we're pretty good to go there.
Yep.
Anything stand out to you? I mean, anything important? That
Detroit game is not on the main, if I recall correctly, so we don't have to worry about that.
So nothing special in your mind. It's just all much ado about nothing other than it's it's what was it Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam? It's hot, damn hot.
Yep.
So that's all we need to know about that. Where's the old? Come on, get the main going. That's what we're looking for. Slide over to the old Carnage Report, which I actually do like to use a lot. It helps.
I do too,
especially with K-Score, because like I said, that's where I find it. So this is the thing that I'm looking at when I saw. Well, we got 12 games, no weather to worry about. Coors, the Dodgers are out in Coors, which we'll definitely talk about when we talk about bats.
Yes, we will.
We're going to have to talk about that one when we get to leverage stacks. But the starting pitching chalk was Crochet, Valdez, and Peralta for the most part on DraftKings. I'm sure one of those guys took the lead on FanDuel and is the chalk on FanDuel. But
Crochet 30%, Peralta 30%.
There they are, top three in the Carnage Report.
Yeah.
And for a reason. Now, Peralta's got a little lower K score than the others, and then you've got now your Strider's a slightly lower on the play. Rodon is in Cincinnati, so you got hot weather, small park there, but he's got the K potential. There's a couple of pivots that you could use if you really, really wanted to. But I think that the big question, the pivot elephant in the room, if you will, is going to be what we're going to do with those Dodgers. If you are going to play Dodgers in Coors, then I wouldn't worry about ownership and getting cute with pitching.
No.
If you're going to fade, if you're going to fade the Dodgers, I would not worry about getting cute with pitching because I'm already fading the big team. If I'm going to play the Dodgers in Coors, then I might consider some of these, Strider, Rodon types, just to get one of those pitchers at least off.
Right. And it's going to be a little hard since they're so expensive too. If you do a full stack, you're going to have to pay down in a couple of spots and at least one of the spots on DraftKings, I think.
Well, then who would you go to? If you can't go to, Crochet's 11K, Strider's 10, Rodon is 10.7. The other two are over 9.
Let's see.
If you went Peralta Valdez and went 9.2 and 9.5, okay. But if you really wanted to get dirty with one of them, is there anybody that jumps out to you down, say, under 9K?
Let's see. I'm looking at Deli's cheat sheet here.
Because I'm not seeing one with a huge K score. And that's what I'm going to pivot to.
If we're just looking at the K score, no. I mean,
that's what I look for because it's the easiest thing to spot.
I mean, Bubic's ISO is fine, but, you know, the Rays hit left-handed pitching really, really well.
Right.
Houston can be hot and cold. So, I mean, Suarez is right there, and his ISO is really, really nice. But again, the K score is just kind of middling.
See, and that's the thing. He doesn't have to give up a lot of power, but if he doesn't strike anybody out either, he needs to get deep 7-8 innings into the game for us to really post up a decent score.
Right, especially on FanDuel, where the win and the quality start are more important. Ryan Nelson doesn't go deep into games.
You know what's funny, and this is for the commenters too. Somebody in that in this Carnage report that we're looking at, from say Ryan Nelson down to Haney, whatever, and you can even use some of these guys that we don't know much about down here on the bottom. We mentioned McGreevy off air and some stuff like that. I mean, there's no data on these guys; they're very, very short samples, and some of them. Somebody in this pitching pool of 15 people that are not blue in K score on the Carnage report, somebody's going to throw for 8, 10 strikeouts. Just too many of them there. Somebody's going to have a night. I just don't know which one it's going to be.
Right. I mean, you can bring up Chase Burns a little bit. You know, he's, the Reds' big hot prospect. He's making his major league debut tonight. He throws 102, and the Yankees can strike out. Yeah, but and again, Great American Small Park. I don't think we're going to have a repeat of what's his name from the Brewers the other night.
Right, no kidding.
Mizorowski, 6 perfect innings or whatever. I mean, that's interesting. Verlander against Miami, he's coming back from injury, not so much.
He might be older than the senior citizens coming through the gate.
Yeah.
But he's taking on Miami.
Yeah, but no, I mean, living in that top 5.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Quantrill's been awful, but the game's in San Francisco, which kind of equalizes things a little bit. But again, just looking at that chart right there, it's not good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty for me, though, with K-score stuff, is it's a sliding scale. And just like you say, Cal Quantrill has been awful, but he's in San Francisco tonight. So maybe that either gives him some upside or at least raises his floor towards maybe he doesn't have as big a downside as he might. Like if he was in Wrigley with the wind blowing out or something like that. Totally different environment. Same thing with the K-score. If you've got a high strikeout pitcher and a low strikeout team, it hurts his upside. If you've got a middling strikeout pitcher facing a high strikeout team, it definitely raises his upside. All these things are on sliding scales. You just, to what degree, and obviously it's just not something we probably want to take a ton of risk on. It really is kind of feast or famine. It's all the way up top with the pitching, or, I mean, you're kind of gambling.
Yeah. I would mention, just for a smidge, maybe Tyler Anderson, just because of the matchup. I mean, everything is yellow and pink except for the K score, which makes sense because Boston strikes out the 3rd most in the entire league. And they don't have Rafael Devers anymore. So maybe just for the K upside, he might be somebody you could pay down a little bit for.
Well,
just because of the matchup.
Man, we haven't even looked at bat prices in Coors yet for LA. I bet they're up there. So 64, $7,200 pitcher, you might kind of have to if you want to.
Yeah.
That is something. Let's
look at the cost here.
Where's the old pivot over to those leverage stacks? I want to bring that up too, because that's the thing that I'm really wanting to watch. I've already shifted over here to the ranks, the IRT ranks, which is kind of the way I like to look at things. Either shift to that or ownership, as I've mentioned before. And when I see the 101% on the LA Dodgers, of course, bright red, 12 game slate, so 24th ranked ownership means there are the chalk. In this case, it's a little bit of a mental reverse you have to do when you're looking at this particular column. But when I go looking for who's 23 and who's 22 and whatnot, it's Colorado at 20, and they're 54%. So the drop off again, and it was me and you that had this show before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was 100% something on a big slate, and then just boom, bottom fell out to like 40-something% for the next person down.
It was the Giants and Coors a couple weeks ago,
and they were very similar.
I think they were 2.5 times owned.
This is very, very similar. Team. Yeah, and on top of that, so your second place team is 54% owned in theory,
and it's their opponent,
right? And when you scroll over here to the far right and you look at the leverage ranks, look at all the teams generating leverage. Those outside of one or two teams, the top 10 are all here in the top 6 or 8 teams according to implied run total. So again, it's a big enough slate. A couple of offenses are definitely going to go off. It may not be the most predictable factor as to who specifically those offenses are, but if you're just sticking to those teams that are kind of above a 5 IRT or maybe above a 4.5 or 4.75 IRT, not only are you getting the teams that Vegas is predicting to go off, that are probably in the warm weather stadiums, that are probably facing the weaker pitchers, you're also getting the teams that for whatever reason are generating the most leverage on the slate tonight too. So there's really no reason to get cute.
Right. And just look at the salary too. Go back over to the salary.
And even LA is the number 1 leverage team, which is crazy.
Right. But like your salary,
this has to kind of be mini.
Their average salary $5,600.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? When
The next closest Cubs and Yankees, 4,500.
When I get to Domination Station here in a little bit, just look through that. I'm going to actually pull up the LA Dodgers and take a peek at those salaries because that is something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knew it was going to be high. We're not morons.
Right. And I think that's just the choice you have to make. Are you going to eat that chalk, or are you going to take the chance that first game in Coors doesn't work out? Because I think we see that more often than not. And at that price and that ownership, I think there's a case to be made. Now, could they score 15 runs? Absolutely. Right. But you fade them or you go underweight on them and they don't. Then you just catapult everybody else that you're playing against. And it's a big enough slate that you can make that case a little bit more easily. Now, if it's like a 5 or 6 game slate, no, I think you just eat the chalk. Where you're more likely to.
Well, Phil's asking about our GPP stacks or our sneaky one, and that's really where we are right now. All you missed, Phil, was a little bit of the pitching talk, which is, again, kind of don't get cute unless if you're playing the LA Dodgers, then you might get cute with pitching because you're eating some chalk there. But if you are fading LA for whatever reason, then you can eat the chalk on the pitching all day long because you're so different from everybody else. So, which back to your point, who do you see? I guess I should ask, who are you? Are you playing or are you fading the Dodgers? Which way are you leaning?
I'm leaning fading just purely from the ownership standpoint. Now it could bite me and I could finish last, but like I said, that's the choice you kind of have to make.
Yep, and I see the same thing too. When I see that kind of concentration in the ownership. And again, it's not about the 100%. It's not about the raw number. It's about what the sheet is telling us. The sheet is telling us at a 2-to-1 ratio, people are preferring the Dodgers over anybody else on a 12-game slate. That's 24 teams, and they're concentrating right all in that one area. So it's easy for me to just get away from that and say, well, guess I'm not really that interested in Dodgers tonight. Now, again, they are the number 1 leverage generating team. So you could absolutely argue with me and say they're the number 1 team. They're the number 1 offense. They're out in Coors. There's a bump there. I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to play them anyway. And I'm going to get it a little bit different somewhere else. And I'd be like, hey, that is equally logical. One of us is going to be right tonight and one of us is going to be wrong. And I don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be me or it's going to be whoever says they're on Dodgers. Totally fine.
In cash, you absolutely play them. In your single entry, you actually absolutely get pieces of them. In the high dollar stuff, you get pieces of them.
For sure. You have to. Yeah. They're just probably too highly owned. I want to ask the guys in the comment section again, are you fading or are you playing the LA Dodgers? Is this commentary helpful to you as to maybe why we're fading in ownership alone? Or is that just such old news that it's like, I don't know, that didn't really help me much. Because we say it every time. I like beating in the fundamentals because it's just like practicing 3-foot putts. you're going to come up against them all the time, and you might as well be really, really good at them. And if you ever relax on the fundamentals for very long, you get rusty, and your rest of your game falls apart accordingly. So I think thank you, Calvin, for participating. It's one of those things where I think that constantly saying the same things over and over and over and over again just drives home the point of why we do what we do, why we decide what we decide. Tattoo, Boston, San Francisco, Milwaukee, Arizona, Seattle. So I don't see LA Dodgers in there. Looks like Tattoo's being a freak. So you're fading, I'm fading, Calvin's fading, Tattoo's fading. Maybe we need to change this to comment if you're playing then. Because, I mean, I can see obviously reasons for it. Who among the others, let's just pretend we're out on Dodgers, we're fading them. Now where are you going? Because the rest of that ownership is very, very evenly spread. All in the 30s and 40s. And again, these things can be wrong. By the time we get to game time, some team may be a clear second or third ranked choice. We just don't see it in these numbers. The way I would do it, and it's my parts real quick, I would say I'm just sticking in the next 10 teams. New York down to about Chicago or Arizona. That's it. I rank them by IRT. They're all over a 4.75 or a 5. I can go down to Boston. I don't know that I would play Kansas City. I can go to the Cubs. I can go to Arizona. And, I mean, that's about it. I'm done. Mix and match. Roll the dice, Yahtzee.
Yeah.
You're probably more strategic than that. Who do you see out of those 10 teams, or do you see somebody off that radar, and why?
Well, I like Atlanta tonight just because Frankie Montas is making his first start of the season, and we're always rusty, and Frankie Montas isn't anything special to begin with. And, a couple of those bats for the Braves have been, hitting well. Acuna looks like he's all the way back.
Yeah.
Olsen is nicely priced. So they're, I've got the Dodgers listed as a 4-star just because of the matchup and everything, but Atlanta's my other 4-star. If I'm assigning two. I do like the Cubs tonight, chop against your Cardinals. Just because their offense has just been good all season. It's consistent. Happ is hot, Tucker is hot, PCA is hot. Arizona is knocked down a little bit, but they're in such a good spot. But Naylor's out, or Carroll's out tonight. Suarez is out tonight, so maybe the upside isn't quite as high as it could have been. But they've still got a great matchup against some White Sox pitcher I've never heard of.
Well, you hadn't heard of the St. Louis pitcher either, so
Jordan Leisure. I don't know much about Jordan Leisure. Let's see.
I don't know much about him either.
Okay.
Except that poor guy got drafted and brought up by the White Sox.
Yep. So he might just be an opener. I don't know. He's an opener. So I don't have an issue going right back to them tonight either. Both the Rays and the Brewers I like too, just because they both hit left-handed pitchers really, really well. I know Raz was talking about them in chat earlier too. He's on the left-handed pitcher versus those or team versus those left-handed pitchers train.
I would like to
as
get
well. Yelich is hitting really well for the Brewers. So that'd be where I'm kind of going. Seattle too. I love Seattle. They're just hot too.
I would love to see what Tampa Bay's implied run total has been throughout the year. In the environment they've been in. I mean, tonight we can't argue that Tampa surprises us repeatedly, and pricing still hasn't caught up with them. Their average salary, $3,600 per bat. They're under a 4.0. The law of history says that won't make the nut lineup, but Tampa's been in the nut lineup a lot before. I'd like to see how often they have defied us at under a 4.0, like just getting no love. They're the Rodney Dangerfield of MLB DS right now. They just are getting no respect. Them and the Angels getting no damn respect. And I mean,
they're affordable too.
Wouldn't surprise me. They're very affordable, and you could pair them with. And this is another thing too. If you want to get really, really different, and let's say that you do want some Dodgers exposure, then you just make them your 3-stack or your 2-stack or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're good to go. Pick the right bats. Max Muncy, hello, bomb alert. Max Muncy's 7 for 32 with 4 bombs against Marquez. So there's a little bit of history there, and he's going to be one of the cheaper bats in that lineup. And you got a history of 4 bombs. I mean, he might be where you go, and then you might mini stack him with somebody near him in the lineup, 1 or 2 lineup spots away, and then that might afford you the opportunity to take an Acuna in Atlanta, or to stack the living hell out of Tampa Bay and pay up at pitching, or whatever the hell the case may be. Welcome to MLB DFS, because this is just how shit goes down.
Yep.
Do you have any favorite singular bats tonight before I look up that Dodgers individual pricing, because that's where I'm going to go next? I'm just curious as to if you're on Atlanta, and I mean, obviously Acuna is going to be something. If you're on Chicago a little bit, and you said PCA, and you said Happ, and you said some of those guys. I like your call of Arizona as far as
Gerald Perdomo. Perdomo's probably going to be leading off with Carroll out, and he tends to do really well from the leadoff spot. Christian Yelich, he's got almost a 1,500 OPS in over the last week.
That is hot,
and he's affordable too.
Yeah. As a team, again, Milwaukee's affordable, 3,800 average bat price.
Yeah.
Boston, 3,600 average bat price. I'd rather take those teams than Kansas City is 3,500. I mean, it's just, they're all the same price, but those are better offenses.
Yeah. If you want to get kind of crazy, the Mets against Strider, they're hitting over 300 in about 100 at bats against him, and their OPS is about 860. And you called out off the air Nimmo. He's hitting like 500 against Strider with a couple of home runs.
Yeah, 9 for 19, 2 bombs, and I don't know what his OPS was, 1,600, something like that. Yeah, he would be actually a bomb call of mine tonight, where I would say, sure, I would put $1 or $5 or whatever on that home run.
And again, like I said, the Yankees would be one just going up against a rookie in Great American Small Park. They're not terribly overlooked. Their ownership is second or third, so they're right there. But if you want some upside off the Dodgers in that environment, you could go there pretty easily.
I'm showing Innertube's comment because he was talking about LA and if he could use them for the small stack instead. And I hope that you asked that question while I was answering it, or while I was bringing that up, because that would be really, really cool timing. But yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a thing. So that's cool.
And you could even just pick 3 or 4 of the Dodgers and, just force them into your 2 stack. You don't even have to get too crazy by dumpster diving the bottom half of the lineup.
Yeah. One thing I've been looking into with AI, with my little AI conversations, again, ChatGPT is in my inner circle of best friends now, because I don't get out of the house that much anymore. And they have recommended dropping from 5 stacks to 4 stacks if you're carrying those very expensive teams. You're going on the Yankees, you're going on whoever, the Cubs, Dodgers, whatever. Don't be so over the top of a half the 5 stack. I disagree with ChatGPT there a little bit. I think you do need a 5 stack. But if you're doing it in those really, really expensive bats, I see what AI is trying to say, which is drop to a 4 stack, because then you get very unique again, because everybody's 5 stacking and nobody's 4 stacking. So you're a little bit unique there. You still get big enough pieces that if 4 bats go off instead of 5 or 6 of the bats, you end up with a big enough piece of the offense. But that's kind of the idea we have with the put them in your mini stack side. What I would do, and this is, like I said, where I disagree with AI, I would say instead of my 5 stack, I would build 5 by 3 and I'd make them my 3 stack. Because again, I can afford that. And on big slates like that, now on a small slate, 3-game slate, 4-game slate, yeah, I'll come off the 5-man stack and do a 4-man stack there. Absolutely. The smaller the slate, the less we need to be as big a stack as possible on that one side. It still helps. It's still optimal. It still works. But those are the smaller slate sizes that we can actually think about maybe coming down off of one of those bats. But on the big slates, I think you need to be 5 by 2 or 5 by 3. The numbers show it. The numbers bear it out. And I would put LA on my 3 stack side if I wanted to play them tonight, as opposed to what Darth and I said earlier, which is we're just probably fading them in general and just hoping for the best. Because
Or
that's where I'm
even
going to get the leverage, in my opinion.
right. Or even just, uncheck them from your stacks at all and just let the DS put them in your as one-offs.
Yeah, and I would obviously allow for that.
Yeah.
Like if I got a Freddie Freeman one-off or an Ohtani one-off or even a Tommy Edman one-off or whatever, if he's in the lineup, yeah, I would allow that. And I'd be like, thanks. If the game explodes, maybe I got a small enough piece of it that the rest of my lineup can do the damage and be all right. Yep. So for real, absolutely. Good point. Good point.
Yep. The other team, and we talked about it, would be the Cardinals just against Tyon. I think their offense hasn't been terribly effective. A couple hitters have been hitting well. Burleson for sure. But Tylan's just been awful. He started off the season kind of nice, and then he's just kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit.
Okay.
So Cardinals, and again, they're affordable too.
Yeah.
Just a lot of good options tonight. If you're not going with the chalk.
That's what goes back to when we saw kind of the top 3 to 5 pitchers and then a whole lot of question marks and not a lot else. That usually means there's a few offenses that are in pretty bad spots and everybody else is kind of in play because who the hell knows? You know what I mean? It's like pitching and hitting is exactly opposite no matter what you do. If it's a good hitting day, it's usually a bad pitching day and vice versa. So who knows? Yeah, I mean, the weather's hot here. It's Cubs-Cardinals rivalry. If the game goes 8-6 or 12-10, I don't think it'll surprise anybody. If it goes 2-1, it'll surprise people.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of games that could, come close to what we anticipate Coors being. I mean, that could be one of them right there.
And banking on Coors falling flat. Coors can't go 17-8 or something like that. If it does that, then you're going to need to be in Coors, and you and I are going to be at the bottom of the leaderboard playing solitaire.
Yeah. But it could go 8-6 very easily, and you could have a game like the Cubs-Cardinals go 8-6, or Seattle could put up 12 on Chris Paddock and the Twins very easily too.
And something random could go off too. You just never know. Guys, other questions? Fire them at us. We got a few minutes here. We can keep on digging up some of this stuff, but I kind of want to ask you your bomb calls. I've got one more that I haven't mentioned yet, but I want to get what yours are. I want to see who you think. I mentioned Muncy and Nemo.
I think Acuna does it again tonight.
Who?
Acuna.
Okay.
I know that's kind of an easy pick. Who's kind of an under the radar one?
I don't know why in my head I've got that lady, that TikTok chick that got banned from the Waffle House in the TikTok video, who's just doing this dance the whole time, right? Like eating her waffles and doing that. I've got that in my head because when you're like, oh, a little off the radar pick, I'm like, I've got one. I've got one.
Yelich. I mean, Yelich would be one just because he's been so hot. I feel like Raleigh's an easy one, so we won't call him. But I would, Acuna.
Call him if you got him. You're not going to build an 11 home run parlay without calling Cal Raleigh in there, right?
And get kicked off of FanDuel or like the one guy or whoever it was.
Maybe he'd go to Waffle House with that chick and eat some waffles. I don't know.
That's right.
Reese Hoskins is interesting.
Yeah.
From Tattoo. You've got some more in you, though. I know you do. You're digging. You're looking. I see it. I see the wheels turning.
He's got his bong calls every day.
I see the mouse. I see your mouse scrolling. I know you well. He ain't on the show today, and you are. So it's your call.
I mean, Devers, even though it's in San Francisco, he seems to like it there, and Cal Quantrill is horrible.
Okay.
I haven't officially picked one yet, but those are the ones that kind of pop off to me.
Okay. I personally wouldn't do Muncy only because he's in Coors, right? Like, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't bet the prop or whatever. I'm just saying, to me, they're in Coors. Everybody loves bombs. And so it's kind of, like you said, it's a Cal Raleigh, or I'm not saying Muncy's Cal Raleigh, but I'm saying it's kind of that type of a call where it's kind of feels like a little bit of a softie. Nemo's a little bit better. But the one that I like tonight, another one, is 2 for 7 against his opposing pitcher with 2 bombs. Both of them are bombs, 1,800 OPS otherwise.
Okay.
George Springer.
Ooh.
That's a little off the radar.
Super under the radar.
I don't know many people picking George Springer to hit for power anymore, but he's got the history, and he probably won't because, it is what it is. And I mean, it seems like, what is today, National Swim a Lap Day or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Every day is National Make Chop Look Bad Day. So that's just what the gods like to do. But I mean, that would be one I'd throw a buck or two in a prop on, just because I like the numbers. I just thought he was a little off the radar, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to, you know what touts do, internet touts do, is they like to walk around when they make a call like that pans out and go, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, look what I did.
Pat that back. I mean, it was all skill.
Tatis against Trevor Williams, whose ERA is like 5.
Right.
5.5.
We mentioned that too. People, I don't know if they've seen the news yet or not, but he's suing his. He's suing some outfit that gave him $2 million up front. They made a trade before he came up to the majors. We'll give you $2 million up front for 10% of your future earnings. Like, I don't know if that has a shutoff date. It sounds like it's in perpetuity. 10%. You play for 25 years. Thank you. You signed a huge contract, whatever. He's already in the hole to them. I don't know if he's paid them or not. He's suing to get the money back. I don't know if that means he has paid them or he's not paying them for whatever reason. But he's in the hole for him for $34 million because he's already made, what is that?
You knew what you were getting into. Come on. You knew what you were getting into.
That's absolutely crazy. But whatever. So Tattoo loves Boston for sure. And Phil asked that question. So we're Kirk, Story, Deers, all those good guys. What else you got for me, brother?
Romy Gonzalez has been hot. Sedan Rafael has been hot. So a couple of those Red Sox have been picking up the slack since Devers is gone. Rob Refsnyder, Tattoo says too.
Yeah, Tad is going nuts in the chat there. He's got all the bombs. I mean, why don't we just name them
off the roster for us?
Right, we can just name them all. Which, speaking of which, that reminds me, I need to go through here and sort by team in the DS and scroll down. Hopefully, it doesn't update on me. Don't update. I got to get down to the Dodgers because I want to see those prices. Ohtani 7,200.
Good grief. Freeman 6,200. Will Smith 5,900.
Teoscar 58. Mookie Betts 57. Pies 51. Muncy 4,900. That's a cheap 4 bombs. Edmund 4,200. What's that? 5.9. It's a little bit gapped for me to take. It's like a 5x2. 7.9. I haven't touched all year.
You could 7.9 maybe.
Yeah, or 5.7.
Bias and Edmund, yeah.
I would probably go 5.7. I really, if Muncy has that history there, it updated.
Yeah.
If Muncy has that history, he might be kind of where I go. His ownership 15. Probably has to throw it off with under 10% ownership. Damn it! Stop updating. It's going to do it to me now. You know how it goes through its little waves. Yep. It's going to do it to me for a while. Yep. Muncy's the lowest owned projected bat. Oh, Pius is. So 14%, 9%. That might be where I'd go. I'd go 5.7. If I was looking to save a little bit of money and get in and out of course. Now, that's why they
look at that ownership though. Like the lowest owned guy is right under 10%.
Yeah. This is why, though, they're probably generating leverage on such a big slate. They're all 10 to 15% owned, except for Ohtani. So if you really want to get different, you fade Ohtani. You hope he doesn't do anything tonight. You stack up 5 of the Dodgers. Boom, you got leverage right then and there. That's another way to go. There's just so many ways to go. But, I mean, it's expensive as hell, 6,200. It's like putting 5 pitchers on your roster, which we know you can't do, obviously. So, I mean.
So you're paying down then for a couple of,
it's forcing you in the bottom.
I don't know who you're paying down for.
It generates leverage. Putting 5 Dodgers in your lineup generates leverage because it's impossible.
Yep.
I mean, you really have to. Well, you're taking the 8-9 hitters out of the Chicago White Sox that make it work.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I'm sure somebody will do it, and somebody will. And if the Dodgers go score 18 runs tonight, that guy's got leverage all over the place. So, if you want to be that guy, force it in and punt a couple of pitchers, hope they come off with 15 to 16 points, hope that the Dodgers
don't do anything.
Ton. Yeah. Hope the Dodgers score a ton, and that ends up giving your stack, 5 bats, and gives your stack 100 to 150 points. It can do it.
Yep.
That is in the realm of possibilities. It's just as rare, though, as about anything else. And that's what it's going to – if it does that, you will be alone. You will be alone at the top of the leaderboard. because nobody else is going to have that much. But you're going to need all those bats to go off.
Yeah.
You can't fail
Tattoo
in a
says
couple of
build a
spots.
line.
Said what?
Tattoo says build a line. Do we have a minute to build a line?
Well, yeah. Okay, we got time. We got none but time, baby.
Should we try one with 5, like a 5-2 stack, and then try one?
I think that's a must because
Pius and Muncy and see what it puts in.
Okay, let's do say 10 lineups. Let's go a little more. Let's see if we can get 20 out of this thing. Let's go 2 unique players just to make it a little bit more friendly. Tourney mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't think we can limit pitching too much.
No.
We're going to have to see if it wants to punt or if it wants to pay up.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to go 5x or 5x2 or 5x3?
Let's do 5-2 just
5-2.
to see what it looks like with all 5 Dodgers. It's going to force in. It's going to force in the 5 cheapest Dodgers probably because it's going to want to. But
and then we'll just leave the rest of it and see where it goes.
Yeah,
right?
Just to see what happens. Yeah.
Do it one time. Do it one time. Do it one time. There we go. Not having too much problem. Did I say 20 lineups?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I did. There they are. Let's make sure they're all stacked up. There's LA, all 20 lineups, 5 stacked.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely possible. It's looking like it likes San Diego, Seattle.
San Diego's in a good spot too.
It picked Seattle.
Okay.
And then Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Boston, Miami, Minnesota. So a bunch of also rans. Seattle might be the best. I wonder why we might not have taken the Angels. Because that would be a good one to manually override, in my opinion, and hope to
they're facing Crochet. They're facing Crochet.
Oh, that's right.
So
We're using Crochet. There you go.
Right, so that top line, it gave us Crochet, which is great, but then Ryan Nelson, which is
you mentioned is maybe an outlier chance.
Yeah, and he's facing the White Sox. So on DK, you don't necessarily need him to go terribly deep.
Bottom of the line at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for the Dodgers,
which isn't awful.
No,
they're all
if
decent.
Score 20 runs, they're all getting 7 at bats.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Crawford, Solano, Reese McGuire is your punt catcher. Yeah. Which again, weather's hot in St. Louis. If the new kid doesn't have his A game, Reese McGuire can punch one out. I mean, run into one. That's okay. Mm-hmm. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for Dodgers. There's your 4, 6. Araz and Bogarts in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Crochet and Nelson again. It's going to love Crochet and Nelson, I have a feeling.
It is.
Nelson's salary.
Yeah, and
Crochet
the matchup.
Nelson.
And the matchup, yeah.
Salvi Perez, 6-9 in there. Well,
Salvi's been hot too.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 again for Dodgers. There's a different one. Will Smith. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. With a 6-9. And now you're punting with Cole Young in Seattle.
Okay. So they're not awful. And, if you weren't settled on those 2 pitchers, you could probably smooth it out and find 2 9,000 or 8,500 pitchers if you wanted to.
But see, you're also reaching a little bit. You got down here where you're punting the 9-hole in Milwaukee.
Right. You're going to have the 9-hole pretty much in every lineup.
Draw a walk, dude. Just get hit by a pitch, something. Anything. Go ahead and plunk them.
Yeah.
I would go to Buffalo Wild Wings and hit hit by pitch button, just drill him, send him to the bases. And that 7-9 Milwaukee stack's kind of nasty too, that mini stack.
So it's looking the same pretty much.
Yeah. It's really stuck on the same bats for the most part, which I figured it would be bottom of the order. Like we said, you got to get 5 bats in there. But you want to flip them over to the mini stack side?
Yeah. So we go up to the DS, we just flip it. We put all teams on the 5, and then we just lock the Dodgers on the 2 side.
All teams. Well, if it would uncheck, thank you. Come on, baby. There we go. I don't need to put 100% on here, but I just do because I'm a nerd.
I would too.
I want to build this one 5x3. See if it does.
Okay.
Because I might actually lie to everybody, and
you're talking yourself into it.
Yeah, sneak one of these in there.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. I might just tell.
And there's validity to it.
Yeah, San Diego 5, 5, 7, 9. It's still going to go cheap on
but that's okay. The gaps aren't too big either.
6, 8, 9. Bottom.
And
of
the
order.
pitchers are decent too. Crochet, a solid.
And Framber Valdez.
Probably the cash choice, and then Valdez too. Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know if I'd go 5 Padres necessarily.
Right.
But that's what it looks like it wants to do. So maybe I go back up here. Let's check the stack, see if it's all potted up. There's a Chicago White Sox and Minnesota. So let's go remove San Diego and Minnesota. And this is another way that I'll do things too. So it had Chicago in there. Wouldn't really rather see them. San Diego and who was it? Was it Milwaukee? Was that the other guy?
Minnesota was the other one.
Minnesota. Yeah, we didn't mention them too much. I'm not as interested in them.
Yeah.
See where force it to go somewhere else now and see what it does.
I'd also say don't sleep on actually having some exposure to the Rockies.
Yeah, I want to see DS do it though. I want to see them.
Yeah, because I think the Dodgers are going with an opener or Robleski tonight.
Seattle, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Boston, Arizona, Washington, San Francisco. This is more palatable to me.
Those are all solid too.
I'm going to find something I like in
Except
there.
Pittsburgh. Well, Pittsburgh's not, so Pittsburgh could go away. But
so my pitchers are Crochet, Valdez, and a handful of them. And for people watching, here's how you want to. How many of my Crochet lineups have Valdez in them? I've got 18 out of 20 that have Crochet in them. 11 out of 20 have Valdez. You just hit the search on Crochet, and now it'll tell you how many of your lineups are with Valdez. So there's 9 out of my 20 that are that specific combo. That's another way that you can look at that, because you want that to be different. If you're MMEing and you really want to spread out, you want, okay, I've got Crochet in there, and that's great, but I don't want him with Ryan Nelson in every freaking lineup. I want him to mix and match a little bit. And that's what unique players does, and that's what randomness does, and that's what projection maxes do, and all that kind of stuff. For sure. But that's how you monitor it, is you click into the little search thing you hear, and then it tells you how many of those Crochet lineups have Valdez in them as well. But yeah, so Crochet, Valdez, and then Smith, Edmund, Conforto. Ooh, I mean, what would be funny is, I wonder if you don't even leave Conforto in there, because surely the dude is going to do a little bit someday, and at zero ownership, nobody likes him. Nobody's playing him all year. He just has to run into an Ozzie Smith home run or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's Seattle, though. 1, 4, 6, 7, 8. Not the worst. There's a Pittsburgh one. We'll skip past that one.
Gross.
Watch it work out, though.
Probably.
Milwaukee, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6, 7, 9.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really loving Joey Ortiz in the 9 hole. Every Milwaukee
for 2,400. Yeah.
There's Boston. Ooh. 3, 4, 6, 8, 9. I mean, granted, no Devers, of course, but 3, 4, 6, 8, 9. And then you're 7, 8, 9. And this is a non-gapped baby with Crochet and Valdez.
Yeah.
That is non-gap. If you're big into correlation and you want that tight, no gap type of stuff, and that gives you an eyeball hard on or whatever, that's definitely a lineup that you would be attracted to. One of the best ones we've seen in terms of putting it together. Even better in this Pittsburgh looking lineup. Well, there's a 198 Shohei with a wrap, but it took Pittsburgh to do it.
Yep.
Crochet Ryan Nelson, if you're into that. 5, 6, 9 Dodgers.
Yep.
1, 3, 4, 7, 9. It's spread out through the Arizona line.
A little wraparound though with Herrera.
Seattle again. 6, 9, 1, 4, 5, 6, 9. With the 4, 5, 9. This is not a bad Dodgers. It's gapped, but it's not bad. Yeah. And no Cal Raleigh. And that goes back to what we had talked about before. But then again, you're taking out Cal Raleigh and you're putting in Will Smith.
Right.
That's a great 1v1 swap. But as we've seen in their team numbers on the season, no Cal Raleigh, no money.
Yep.
In your Seattle stacks, outside of maybe a couple of outlier games. Most of the time, the damage, since he has a third of their home runs, most of the time he's got to be included in that stack.
Right. Do one more thing. Take the Dodgers out of both sides. I'm just kind of curious what the DS will do if all of the one-offs and all 20 lines are actually the Dodgers.
Take Dodgers out of both sides. And you said all 20 without Dodgers?
Yeah, I'm just curious if the DS will put a Dodger in as a one-off in every single line.
Oh, I got you. Another good question. And then we'll go ahead and we'll ship it for today. We'll double check the questions, make sure that people aren't asking questions because I'm staring at the DS right now. I'm not even looking at the comment section.
I haven't seen any.
Hopefully guys are
Tommy
entertained by
Edman.
this, because I can tell you I'm entertained by it. Here's Crochet and Valdez, 100. It just went big on pitching when you fade
Yeah.
Dodgers. Again,
Yeah.
that's fair. Fade Dodgers, don't get
That's
cute
what you would
elsewhere.
do.
Eat
That's
chalk.
kind of the choice. Yep. Pay up for the Dodgers or pay up for pitching, kind of.
It likes San Diego and Milwaukee as your main stacks. It likes San Diego in 19 of the 20 lineups.
All right.
So
Well, there's your Dodger one-off.
Yeah. We'll scan for that, and then I'm going to go cap Padres, and it's Tommy Edman in the 9.
Yeah.
You can do better than that.
There's Tommy Edman again.
Tommy Edman.
Tommy Edman now is second base. Yep.
There's a complete fade. A complete fade. Complete fade. Okay, so it's not got Edman, but if it's using Dodgers as a one-off, it's using Tommy. All right, fair enough. I don't know. He's been hitting for more power this year than he usually does. Let's cap off those Padres at about 20%. Let's see where it forces the DS to go on that bigger stack side. Because if I was MMEing, I'd be like, okay, you love them that much. I don't.
Right.
I'm going to spread.
And on a big slate like that, you don't want to go bigger than 16, 20% on a team anyway.
Right.
On a big slate like this.
And it goes to Milwaukee next.
Milwaukee.
And then KC, Arizona, Seattle. So it's not picking up any of our quote-unquote leverage teams. It's taking a flyer on that main stack. But then again, that's how these big slates oftentimes get handled. If something random goes off that nobody saw coming, and then that's the guy that ends up winning the giant field MME type stuff, the mini max. Yep. So, it could be Tampa, it could be whoever. DS isn't seeing it. Projection based, it's not liking it so much. But there's Tommy again. Predictably, Tommy again. Well, this is with San Diego still. There's a Milwaukee with Tommy. Fade. Royals with Tommy. Yeah, it's just not using anybody but Tommy. Crazy. If it wants exposure, it's taking Tommy Edman. That is wild. The DS is all in. So then the next step for people tinkering would be uncheck Tommy, or put 20% max on Tommy and see if it picks up anybody else. It isn't,
or put a dislike on him. Yeah.
It isn't going to get you to Ohtani. It's not going to get you to Will Smith as a one-off catcher. It's going to use the value bats at the bottom of the Dodgers order. That's pretty clear. But at least it's taking Tommy and not Conforto. So there's a 5-2 Milwaukee, Arizona. And Tommy to round it all up. Okay. Well, I think you got a pretty good idea of what the machine wants to do. And this is the thing, and this is the other thing to tell people out there in viewership land. When you end up with clear marching orders out of the machine, that tells you what all the monkey button clickers are doing around the industry. As long as they've got similar projections, everybody's pretty close. That means if you go to the other competitors' sites, which I will not name for you guys, but if you go to any of those guys that we all know the names to, you're going to end up maybe getting some similar lineups, you're not going to get a Tommy Edman one-off maybe, but you're going to probably get Dodgers or similar stuff if we don't, have the Dodgers checked or unchecked or whatever, kind of like we're doing. So if you get a feel and you spend 30 minutes and get a feel for what these optimizers are kind of doing, you can rest assured that the rest of the industry is going to be a little bit similar, which then makes it easier to then interpret ownership numbers. It makes it easier to make those pivots and make those, put a cap on this guy and bring more of this guy in there and all that stuff. That's the advanced stuff that we don't have time in these shows to get into. And that's what you need the VIP stuff for. That's what you need the coaching for. That's what you need Darth for. That's what you need, Raz for. That's what you need these guys, Tattoo and all the MLB team to get in there. So that's why I'm going to tell you down there at the bottom, you got to use that MLB Live coupon code for 10% off because you guys already missed the free week. I don't know what to tell you about that. But get in here and start building and if you're a football guy, start listening to, the Draft Palooza and the brews and, that they're doing out there in fantasy football land, because it gets you sharp through the summer so that you hit the ground running when all the recreationals have taken 9 months off and come back and don't know who's playing for who and who's where and what's what and all that. You've already got an idea of who the value rookies are. It helps your overall NFL game as well. And that's really what we're all here for. Yeah. Baseball is a sideshow through the summer. We're all here for NFL. The pivot off of LA. DePrince just asked, who's that? For me, it's any one of the next 5 to 10 teams. Pick one. I don't know which one's going to go off. Yes, hockey too, Tat.
Hockey.
I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know which. Both of you guys. I don't know which team would be my first pivot. It wouldn't be San Diego, who we're seeing get all the love.
No, I like them, but no.
You might be leaning towards Atlanta, Seattle.
Seattle, or the Cubs for me.
That you had mentioned. Where would I go? I've been an Arizona guy. I know no Carroll, no whatever. I can get on board with Seattle, Atlanta with Acuna back. Tampa's pretty sneaky, but like Tattoo said, they're different on the road. Angels hit boom or bust. I don't know if I'd go there. I'm just looking up and down the list at anybody that really, you know what?
Yankees.
It might be Cubs or Cardinals for me.
Yeah.
A little bit of vested interest in watching the game. Yankees, if they heat back up. A little bit of vested interest for me watching the game, Cubs, Cardinals. But quite honestly, both those offenses. Yeah, exactly. But both those offenses are in play.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the strangest thing in the world. They were both up there on that leverage list, and those would probably be a couple spots I would go. So, I mean, I don't mean to narrow it down for DePrince to 8 teams, but again, they're kind of all in play, and all their ownerships are the same. So they're not telling us anyone is favored over the other in the industry. You're just going to have to pick it right. And my thing would be fading Dodgers, picking 2 of those teams. Somebody else might be on the Dodgers as their 5 stack if they can get it. They're in the bottom of the order. 3 stack and they're short on their small side, or 2 stack on their small side if they can get something that they like. And that's going to force them into one of those teams again as cheaper offenses, as a value type of play. And then whatever your pitching is, I'm going to stay at the top of the pool with pitching again. I'm not going to take any wild risks on pitching, but that's because I'm fading Dodgers.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're on a similar page.
Yeah. Did you see Don's question?
No, I did not.
Yankees pitcher or Boston pitcher for large field?
There it is. Yankees or Boston pitcher for yard. Well, let's get Captain Don back to the Carnage report.
Crochet is the highest owned, and I think it just depends on how chalky you are and everywhere else.
So
if you're not terribly chalky, then you could lean Crochet. And then vice versa.
100%. 100%.
I mean, Crochet is the chalk. He's probably got the highest upside. With the matchup and everything.
The K score 621, VK score over 700. I mean, that tells me Crochet's got the most upside on the slate. LA loves to strike out.
But he's 6 times higher owned on FanDuel, and he is 4 times higher owned on DraftKings.
I can eat it, though, because I'm fading LA.
Correct. Yep.
So
The price difference on DraftKings, they're $300 different, but they're $900 different on FanDuel. So, that's not insubstantial over there.
Correct. I would still eat it because I'd still be fading LA.
Right.
I would, both sites I'd fade LA and hope for the best. That's just a straight up Coors fade play that I'm doing because it's just so heavily focused on the ownership from what we're looking at. And baseball is a damn game of opposites, where if you think that you're picking the smartest team and the best team, and you're probably picking the wrong team, because even if they go off, you're trying to fight in, a 50,000 person contest. You're trying to fight 5,000 people at the top of the leaderboard, and you're just not going to make up a lot of ground there. You'd rather fight 500 people. And again, you don't want to be stupid. You want to be contrarian. You don't want to be stupid about it. I don't need to go play the White Sox and, stack them with the Miami Marlins or anything just to be different.
Right.
I'm trying to do it sensibly. But when I see that much ownership kind of pointing towards Dodgers bats and Coors, because it's such an obvious spot, when the world gets greedy, I get fearful. That's just DFS 101. And it's something that we have. And again, does it work? Not often. It's not supposed to work very often, because the LA Dodgers in Coors Field are just damned obvious. If we ran this slate 100 times, then the Dodgers should be the nut offense on this slate out of 26 teams or 24 teams, probably 60 times.
Yeah.
They're just going to do it. They're just that good, and the matchup's that good, and it's just going to work out. But I'm banking on being there the 10 to 20 times that my Cardinals or your Cubs or Boston or Milwaukee or whoever, Atlanta, whatever, is the nut offense, and then I've paired them with the right secondary team. So again, that's what we have bankrolls for. That's what we're trying to get. I'm not trying to get to the top of the leaderboard with the highest score. I'm trying to get there alone. And there's a big difference. Mm-hmm. Again, more advanced stuff for people to be in there for the VIP stuff. Any parting gifts?
And it should feel a little uncomfortable.
Absolutely, it should feel
because the obvious thing almost never wins the big thing.
Yes, it should.
It can cash you and it can make you profitable, but it's not going to be the thing that is at the very, very top.
Correct.
So it should feel a little uncomfortable. It could blow up in your face, but it should feel uncomfortable if you're making that choice, because that's what wins, because nobody else is going to be doing it.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. But
awesome
again,
stuff.
Caveat emptor, they could score 15 runs and we'll be at the bottom.
Right.
But again, and I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago when we had the same sort of situation with the Giants and Coors, right? If you fade them all 3 games, chances are at least one of the 3 slates you're going to be right. So over that 3-game time period, you're more than likely to be profitable, because 1 out of the 3 nights you're going to be right, and you're going to be alone being right.
Mm-hmm. Or at least with fewer people. And that's the whole key.
Right.
Love hanging out with you, dude.
You too.
It's always a blast. It's always good to talk for, I guess, me, you, Tattoo, and the whole DFS Army team. Helmets up, guys. Let's go get them. Let's hope that if you're – it's so hard to wish this simultaneously. I hope that if you're on the Dodgers, that they go off and they explode. And I hope that if you're fading the Dodgers, I hope they suck. So whichever way happens, I'm on your side, whoever you are. So
it will be the best of times and the worst of times.
That is so true. So funny. Thank you, Mr. Teacher. I will see you next time I see you. I think I'm back with Tattoo again tomorrow or whatever.
Yep. And then you and me Friday.
And then me and you Friday. Sounds like a plan. We'll catch you there. We'll catch everybody else there. Thanks for watching, everybody. For me and Darth, we're out of here.
Helmets up.